Today, the PDGA just announced that there is a potential rule change coming in the year 2025. So while we're not getting any closer to standardized baskets, smaller baskets, higher bitrate on DGN, and plenty of other changes people have been asking for, we might actually see a new rule for next season. So let's break down that as well as some other crazy shakeups that happened already in the offseason. And before we get to this video, I just want to say thank you so much for all the new subscribers. If you have not subscribed already, I'd really appreciate it as things start to ramp up in the off season. I really put a lot of effort into all these videos, so if you could subscribe, it would mean the world to me. So first up, the rule change. It is a proposal by Doug Bjerkaas stating how changes have been made for the NFL, PGA, and the correlation that it has with Circle 2 putting, specifically jump putts or step putts from 10 to 20 meters. Now, while this still is in early stages, I do think a rule change like this seems kind of inevitable. It feels like just a matter of time. But Doug goes on to state the putting distance has remained the same for nearly 50 years, going on to state that the rule was designed to reduce conflicts on the course, but the effective putting range has dramatically expanded. Because of that, there currently are many step and jump putts in Circle 2 that are either borderline or clearly illegal. It's unreasonable to expect players to become as good as MLB first base umpires, and he goes on to state how much evidence they have that people are breaking the rules from all levels of the sport, and proposes a simple solution: no jump or step putts within 20 meters. Now, of course, this means there's about 66 feet where you cannot jump or step putt, which to me effectively rules out jump and step putts for 99% of players. And I would say in general, everyone is in full support of this. While there are technicalities, like any amateur round where you probably don't have the feasibility to mark Circle 2, the players on the Pro Tour could totally make this change by just adding a few more flags to every course. And if you're one of those players that does not step or jump putt, looking at you, Paul, I'm sure those players are all for it. But the players like James Conrad that love a good stepper, their entire C2 putting could be totally different. Now, all in all, I think this would be a great equalizer for so many putters, because I truly think that the fairness is coming from players that putt from their lie, not in front of it with just 1 foot hovering over the lie. So I think it's definitely a rule change that we need, but it would effectively change so many putters on tour. Because if you remember last year, Kristen had kind of a near meltdown with all the hate coming from her jump putt that everyone said was illegal, even though pretty much everyone else does it. And so if we fully eliminate it, at least on the Pro Tour, I think it would definitely be a drastic change, but I think it would also provide a lot of equalizer, a lot of fairness, and to me, it would be a great addition on the tour. But with that said, this is still in the early stages, so what do you guys think? Should this actually exist? Should this be a thing that's only on the Pro Tour, or should it be forced at every sanctioned event? I'd love to know. But moving on to my favorite commentator, Charlie Eisenhood did an AMA, and while I'm not going to break down every single comment, I do think you should definitely check it out, because there's a lot of stuff that he mentions on the podcast that you may not know if you just watch coverage. And he jumps in on the putting debate, going on to state that it's a little silly when strong jump putters are putting way better from 35 feet rather than 30 feet. This to me is just an evolution of the elite level of the game. I think the DGPT could make this change tomorrow. This is probably the rule change I'd most like to see for the pro game. And then he was asked about the decline in Pro Tour, touring players, and he responded comparing it to the boom and bust of tech companies during COVID, and how the DGPT still has tens of thousands of paying subscribers, which equates to millions of dollars every year in income. But it may mean needing to tighten up some other parts of the operation that are bleeding money. And ends it by stating DGN viewership was up in 2024. Ultimately, what does that exactly mean? Comparing it to 2023, comparing it to peak numbers, I don't really know. And then there was some very interesting other comments that I'll let you guys read, but I definitely recommend checking it all out, because if you're somebody like Charlie, you get replies from the PDGA, which basically no one else is getting on Reddit. And so that leads us to players on the Pro Tour that might not be coming back in 2025. First up, we have Stacy and Kevin Kiefer. And if you're familiar with Kevin, he's had a long string of injuries, and this was his first real season back. And while I think his play was pretty good, I think very similar to Gavin Rathbun's play, it just takes a lot of time to get back in the flow of things, especially after a hard injury. And in addition to that, with one of the most cutthroat off seasons we've ever seen, it is not a great year for somebody that is on the edge of being a relevant player. So despite finishing 4th at Cascade Challenge, 8th at Kansas City Wide Open, and his best Elite Series finish being 13th at Des Moines Challenge, which I actually got to film, and man, honestly, he looked phenomenal. I feel like his play was really strong, and for a course as demanding as Des Moines, I felt like his play was just amazing. I never really mentioned it on my videos, but I did film him a decent amount, and I felt like he was so strong. But as it goes for so many other players, there was a lot of other events that were not great, with basically every DGPT Plus or playoff event being a 50th or worse. He was just never in the mix enough to really make a good living, and when you're on tour going to all these events, it is so tiring, so expensive, so it's honestly no surprise that he did decide to drop out, stating, "Thank you, Latitude. You guys took a chance on a 19-year-old kid and made his dreams come true. You stuck with me through my knee injury and supported me even when I couldn't walk. You helped me become the disc golfer I am today. I am forever grateful for the opportunities in our partnership. For 2025, I will be taking a step back from tour. Thank you everyone for the support for the last 3 years to keep me out there and help me chase my dreams. Not the end of my career, it'll just look different going forward. And then just a couple days later, his wife, Stacey Haas, now Stacey Kiefer, who you might honestly not have seen that much on tour, but she was ranked 22 on the DGBT World Standings, going on to state how her 2024 season was good, but for 2025, you won't be seeing me out on tour. It's definitely bittersweet, but excited to finally settle down and start a new chapter in life. And what's more surprising is that she goes on to state, I honestly never really found the passion for disc golf that I was hoping for. It takes a certain kind of person to tour, and I don't think that person was me. And going on to state, much like Kevin, don't worry, this isn't the end of disc golf for me, just taking a much needed break. And to me, this lines up perfectly with another player that is taking some time off for their family. But before we get to that, I just want to say, I think this is so indicative of what pro tour life is like. You're not making a whole lot of money, generally. It is incredibly grueling. You have so few weeks off. You are going to so many places, and there's truly no time to take a break. Because even if you do take a couple weeks off, well, now you just lost any potential to earn revenue, and you still have to make it to an event after that, so you might have to drive just the same amount. So it becomes incredibly hard, hectic, not fun, and most importantly, not financially viable. And I truly think people that are on tour, that are on this verge of being relevant or not relevant, are staying on tour purely out of pocket. I don't think they're making enough to make it worthwhile. I think they just have enough money saved up that it can still work for them. But so that leads us to another player that's taken a break, at least somewhat, and that is Drew Gibson, stating it's hard to put in words what these past 12 years have meant to me. I've poured my heart and soul into every event and media creation over the years, but today I find myself reflecting on something even more important than trophies, accolades, and views, the future of my family. This post comes from a place of wanting to be the best father I can be to my daughter, and that means making sacrifices. Growing up in a single parent home, I saw the hard work and dedication my father had put into making me who I am today. I never realized how uncommon it was until I grew older, as he made it feel so normal. Now, as a soon-to-be father myself, I want to make sure my daughter doesn't have to ask, where's daddy? I want to be there for her and be present, to watch her grow and to build a stable, loving home. I want my family to thrive in one place, not scattered across different cities every week. And so he ends it by stating he's only going to participate in 6 to 8 events in the US and focus a lot more on creating content for his channel. So to me, that means he's not going to Worlds or any part of the European stretch. And very much like the Kiefers, I feel like this is kind of what the future of the tour will look like for so many pros. You have to start focusing on family, a secondary job, and only go to a certain number of events every year, rather than it being something that you do all the time, nonstop, from February to November. It is a crazy long season, so little off time, especially for anyone that wants to have children, has children, wants to have a more stable life. The pro tour is just not for them, at least not full time. And to me, this feels so very connected to Heather Young, who left the tour just a few years ago, and she was probably at the peak of her career. She was getting top 5 finishes week after week, but she decided the pro tour is just not for her. It was just a little bit too much, a little bit too hectic, and she wanted to take a break. And as far as I know, she doesn't even have an active membership and may honestly not even play disc golf. That is just how it goes when you're trying to do something non-stop and you get burnout. And of course, can't make ends meet with the low level of income that you get as a touring pro, at least for 99% of players. And so while I'm sure people have very strong opinions about Drew, I feel very connected to his story because I have my first child coming very soon, and I totally understand the need to take a break from your full-time career in efforts to be the best parent that you can be. And while we're seeing a lot more of this in the FPO division, I think it will become a lot more prevalent in the MPO division as well. Because I mean, just look at Kristen Lott, I guess, Kristen Lott now. Just look at Kristen. She's had so much time away from her daughter. And while I don't know the specifics, that has got to be incredibly difficult for her daughter, for herself, for everybody involved. And so you really have to decide how bad do you want to be on tour and how much does it mean to you to be apart from your family to pursue this dream of being a professional disc golfer. And so that leads us to the final story here. Robinson brothers are dominating and trolling. So despite Isaac being a two-time world champion, Ezra has definitely been making massive swings in his progression and confidence to cement his rating as the same as Isaac, both being 1046 rated. And while I'm sure Isaac didn't have the best season that he wanted, he still did get a Worlds, but far and away, Ezra's season was definitely the best season out of pretty much everybody besides the top names like Ricky and Gannon, with Ezra's best finish being 3rd at DGPT Championship, taking down 12,000, getting 2nd at Ledgestone, Idlewild, Beaver State Fling, and then 3rd at Champions Cup and 9th at Worlds. Definitely a season that I do not think anyone expected to be as good as it was, but the more you watch him, the more you can see how much growth he's made. And while he definitely still has some nerves going into the final round, you can see how much confidence and how much distance and control he has over the disc in a way that feels kind of similar to Isaac, despite their shots looking so different. And so while we're like 99% sure Ezra is going to Discraft, it still is kind of up in the air because Isaac is being mega troll and posting a seemingly mundane post about playing Disc Golf Valley in the airport. But of course, Gannon Burr's like, bro, where are you going? Because on the monitor, it shows Detroit, which would be MVP. He could be going to MVP. I don't think he is, but he could. And it is also close to Discraft's headquarters. So while we know Isaac and Ezra are not staying at Prodigy, Prodigy, it does make you wonder, is one going to Discraft and one going to MVP? Are they both going to Discraft? Who is to say? But I love the amount of trolling that they do and how they really don't take anything too seriously. And speaking of Prodigy, the new CEO is Will Schusterick. So while I have no clue what that ultimately means for the future Prodigy, I do think there will be a significant push towards better plastic, hopefully, and hopefully signing some big name players. And according to this Ultiworld article, Will goes on to state, there was a time where we fell short of what we needed to do to deliver quality. This includes times where disc flashing was present, just became chalky, or didn't fly the way they needed to. It wasn't good enough, we needed to take action. Our newest molds are some of our best work. The drive for quality has taken some time to rise above the shortcomings we have experienced, and we still have work to do, but we're proud of the product we're making today. And to those who have seen our shortcomings of the past, we'd love to show you what we've done recently. You might be surprised with what you find. And while personally I do have that strong sense of criticism that I have towards Prodigy, I have thrown this new recycled plastic and it feels on par with basically any other top brand, so I do think they're in the right direction, even if they do have a long way to go. So while I'm definitely skeptical, I am very hopeful about the future of what their plastic looks like and what it can actually bring to the market that is new and interesting. And hopefully, as CEO, will try not to get into any debates on Reddit. Never goes well. So with that, what did you guys think about all these new updates in disc golf, from the potential rule change to quite a few pros leaving the pro tour? It all feels somewhat inevitable, but still shocking at the same time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Wild Runs, signing out. Peace.